Okay, let me ask you something right off the bat. When was the last time a country's top leader got killed in an airstrike? Because on February 28th, 2026, the United States and Israel launched a massive joint operation, targeting Iran directly. And within hours, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, 86 years old, was dead. Confirmed. No ambiguity. Trump posted it on Truth Social before Iran even confirmed it. Khamenei, one of the most evil people in history, is dead. Hours later, Iranian state media confirmed it. Satellite images showed his compound completely leveled in downtown Tehran. His daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter were also killed in the same strikes. Just sit with that for a second. Iran declared 40 days of national mourning, but the streets were split. Some people crying, some people celebrating on rooftops. Iran fired back almost immediately. Missiles hit U.S. bases in Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar. Debris struck Dubai's iconic Burj Al Arab Hotel. The IRGC, Iran's elite Revolutionary Guard, pledged its most intense offensive operation ever against U.S. and Israeli targets. Iran quickly formed a transitional council, president, judiciary chief, and one clerical jurist, to run the country in the interim. The UN called an emergency security council meeting. Guterres said stopping now was the only way to prevent something far worse. So here's the central question this whole video is about. Why killing, not capturing? Why did it go this far? Let's back up. 2 months earlier, January 3rd, 2026, before dawn. At a safe house outside Caracas, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro was asleep. And then, U.S. Special Forces were at the door. According to Reuters, over 150 military aircraft had quietly been in the air all night. The CIA had a source right inside Maduro's inner circle, feeding real-time location data for months. That's how precise they could be. They even built a mock version of the safe house to rehearse the raid. A fake building, just to practice getting this one right. At 4:21 a.m., Trump announced it on Truth Social. Maduro and his wife had surrendered inside the safe house. Alive? In handcuffs. Here's the crucial framing difference. The U.S. called the Maduro operation a law enforcement action. A raid, not a war, not an invasion. Maduro was already under federal indictment in New York, drug trafficking charges. So the U.S. framed him as a wanted criminal, not an enemy. The narrative was clean. We didn't invade Venezuela, we arrested a fugitive drug lord. That kind of framing matters enormously in global politics. But here's where I want you to think. If the U.S. could do that with Maduro, why couldn't they try the same thing with Khamenei? The honest answer is, they probably could never have pulled it off. And there are very specific structural reasons why. Let's get into them. But before the differences, both operations share something important, something nobody really talks about loudly. Let's start there. Here's something nobody really talks about. Both of these operations weren't really about missiles or soldiers first. They were about information. In Venezuela, the CIA had a human source embedded inside Maduro's circle, feeding real-time movements, daily routines, the exact safe house. In Iran, Trump said it himself. He was unable to avoid our intelligence and highly sophisticated tracking systems. Read between those lines. Translation? Someone told them exactly where Khamenei was meeting his inner circle at that specific moment. That information was the weapon. This is actually a massive shift in how wars are fought. You don't bomb a country randomly anymore. You hunt the decision-maker specifically. In World War II, you couldn't pinpoint exactly where Hitler was sleeping and drop one bomb on just that building. That wasn't technically possible. Now, satellite imagery, signals intelligence, human informants, AI-assisted tracking. The gap between country-level war and individual targeting has closed. And once you have that capability, the question stops being, can we? And becomes something much more uncomfortable. Should we? Does a country have the right to target another country's leader if they genuinely believe, that leader is a direct threat? Iran's UN ambassador called the strikes a war crime and a crime against humanity. The U.S. ambassador said it was completely lawful. Two answers. One event, both the Maduro arrest and the Khamenei killing triggered the exact same international law debate. Every single time. Without exception. That's the shared consequence. Tactical success doesn't make the legal and diplomatic bill disappear. It always gets attached automatically. Okay, so same intelligence game, same legal firestorm after, but wildly different outcomes. Why? That's what makes this whole comparison interesting. Here's something counterintuitive that I think really matters. When you attack a country from outside, you don't always weaken the government. Sometimes, and this is uncomfortable, you accidentally make the government stronger by handing them a common enemy to point at. In Venezuela, after Maduro's arrest, much of the public went into a shocked silence. The military didn't immediately collapse or defect in mass. In Iran, it was even more layered. Millions genuinely mourned Khamenei in the streets, but some Iranians were also seen cheering on rooftops. That split reaction tells you something critical. The Iranian public was already deeply divided before a single bomb dropped. And yet, Iran's top security official Ali Larijani went on TV immediately and said, "Unite. Do not let them divide us. We will answer this." When a foreign bomb drops on your soil, like even if you personally hated your own government, something in people shifts toward protect home. The CIA actually wargamed this specific scenario. Their pre-strike assessment, Khamenei's death could harden the IRGC, not trigger regime collapse. Military analyst Harlan Ullman said it plainly. Decapitation only works when you get all the leaders. I don't think we got all of them. So that's the second shared truth. Removing a leader creates a vacuum, but what fills that vacuum is completely outside your control. Now, the differences. This is the main event. 3 differences that explain why Venezuela ended with handcuffs and Iran ended with a regional war. Number 1. When the U.S. grabbed Maduro, Venezuela's retaliation stayed mostly internal. Political chaos, some protests, but contained within its own borders. Venezuela has no regional military proxy network, no allies with missiles already aimed at U.S. bases across 5 different neighboring countries. Iran is a completely different animal. Within hours of the strikes, missiles hit U.S. military bases in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Qatar simultaneously. Saudi Arabia said Iran targeted their capital. Jordan intercepted 49 drones and missiles in one single night. The entire region lit up at once. That's the retaliation radius difference. Venezuela equals contained national chaos. Iran equals an immediate multi-country regional war. Night and day. Iran also shares a border with Iraq, and Iraq has Shia militia groups deeply loyal to Tehran. They mobilized almost immediately after the strikes, so the retaliation math looks like this. Venezuela strike, one country reacts. Iran strike, and the whole neighborhood catches fire. Totally different math. And that math changes everything about what winning looks like. Because with Iran, you can technically win a battle and still lose the region. Difference number 2. And this one hits your wallet directly. It comes down to one waterway that most Americans have never thought about: the Strait of Hormuz. A narrow stretch of ocean between Iran and Oman, where roughly 1/3 of all oil shipped by sea passes through every single day. Iran sits right on the edge of it. The moment Iran even hints at closing that strait, global oil prices spike and insurance costs skyrocket worldwide. During the strikes, flights across the Middle East were already being disrupted. Air defense fire was lighting up over Dubai, the world's busiest air hub. Venezuela has a lot of oil, but it does not control a single global shipping choke point. It can hurt regional markets, but cannot choke the whole world's supply. Iran? One political decision. The strait is closed, Tian, and the entire global shipping and energy system goes into emergency mode overnight. Your gas prices, your grocery bills, your shipping timelines. Iran holds that lever, and that completely changes the calculus of any military action. This is why analysts say Iran is a different tier of adversary. Not just military strength, but the ability to hold the global economy hostage. And because Iran holds that lever, even attempting a capture Khamenei commando raid would have triggered the strait threat immediately. Think about that risk. So the military logic became, strike hard and fast from the air before Iran has a chance to close the strait and cut off global oil. Completely different game. Third difference. This one is maybe the most fascinating and the most underreported. What actually happens to power when the leader is gone? In Venezuela, Maduro's arrest created a vacuum, but also a path. Opposition figures, existing courts, and institutions could theoretically step in and fill it. Iran is built completely differently. Power isn't concentrated in one person. It's spread across clerical councils, the IRGC, and security institutions deliberately. Reuters described Iran's political order as deliberately constructed to avoid reliance on a single leader. The system was engineered to outlast any one person. Khamenei actually anticipated this. After a close call with Israel in June 2025, he quietly nominated preferred successors and filled key military backup positions. His preferred candidates included the judiciary chief and Hassan Khomeini, grandson of the revolution's founder. But one named candidate died in the same strikes. Here's the brutal irony. In Iran, removing the leader doesn't collapse the system. It might actually harden it, bringing someone even more extreme to power. The CIA said this explicitly in their pre-strike reports. IRGC hardliners taking power was one of the realistic outcomes they modeled before the operation. Okay, let's pull back and take a breath. Because what we just walked through has implications that go way beyond Iran and Venezuela specifically. We are watching a brand new template emerge in real time. A superpower using intelligence and precision technology to remove or arrest sitting heads of state. In both cases, the U.S. had a justification ready. Maduro as a wanted drug lord, Khamenei as a nuclear threat. Different labels, same fundamental logic. But here's what the international community is quietly worried about. What happens when other powerful countries decide they can apply that same logic? If the U.S. can arrest Venezuela's president or kill Iran's supreme leader, what exactly stops another country from targeting a U.S. ally's leader next? That's the concept of precedent. And once it's set at this scale, you cannot easily undo it. International norms don't get reset with a simple press conference. The UN Security Council called both operations illegal violations of sovereignty. The U.S. insisted both were completely lawful. There's no referee to break that tie. And the uncomfortable bottom line, does targeting leaders actually work? Does it end conflicts faster, or does it just reshape them into something messier? Iran didn't collapse after Khamenei's death. The IRGC kept firing. The Transitional Council formed in hours. The missiles kept coming. The war continued. Venezuela didn't stabilize overnight after Maduro's arrest either. Power vacuums are never clean. People loyal to old regimes don't just quietly disappear. So I want to leave you with one question to think about. Is targeting a leader a shorter, cleaner war? Or is it actually a more dangerous, open-ended gamble? That's a wrap for today. Venezuela, Iran, two operations, one superpower, and a world that just quietly agreed, without voting, on a very dangerous new normal.